Before every new football manager, them discussions we all have about the potential upgrades or downgrades of all the players going into the new year is always an interesting debate. And whilst trying to predict the new wonder kids and upgrades some players will receive is pretty difficult, trying to predict the downgrades it's also quite interesting. And in today's video, we are going to have a look at some of these potential downgrades. And trust me, there are some pretty big names on this list. You don't want to miss it. And we're starting off with an absolute bang. The Real Madrid star, Chelsea icon, and Premier League great, Eden Hazard. Now, there is no doubt that Hazard is a phenomenal footballer, especially at Chelsea. He was absolutely unbelievable. But since his transfer to Real Madrid for 90 million, the question still remains, has he really lived up to that price tag? And the answer to the question from most people is probably going to be no. Since joining Real Madrid, Eden Hazard has only contributed to 4 goals in 33 appearances for the Spanish club. And when we compare this year's attributes to Football Manager 2019, when he was still at Chelsea and probably had one of his best seasons in a Chelsea shirt, 16 goals in 37 appearances, nothing has really changed for Eden. Nothing has really changed since this year in Football Manager 2019. And with his current ability at 175, having a better current ability than players that have had much better seasons than him, the likes of Joshua Kimmich, who has 171 current ability, Romelu Lukaku with 170, and Bernardo Silva with 171. So going into Football Manager 2022, the current ability that I think Eden Hazard will be 160. And even then, he's going to be lucky to be getting that 160 when you consider that he has the same current ability of the likes of Jamie Vardy, Douglas Costa and Lorenzo Insigne. And with that modified current ability of 160, this is how Hazard would look if they were to go with that in Football Manager 2022. And as we can see, even with that minus 15 downgrade, he's still absolutely fantastic. However, there are some noticeable downgrades on his attributes, such as his dribbling, his first touch, his technique. Physically, he's lost a bit of acceleration and pace. He's also lost some progress from his decisions, composure, and off the ball. And it'll be interesting to see how close I get with this prediction. I think Eden Hazard is probably the biggest name that's going to get the biggest downgrade going into the new game. So do let me know in the comment section whether or not you think I'm right, if I'm being a little bit too harsh, or if you think Eden Hazard should be having a lower current ability than what I am predicting. Okay, at the number 2 slot is going to be a player that I think is probably going to cause the most debate in this video, and that player is a player from Manchester United, and it is Donny van de Beek. Now, don't get me wrong, Van de Beek is a really good footballer, especially when he was at Ajax a few years ago. He was absolutely phenomenal, but since he's joined Manchester United, no one really knows why he joined Manchester United. Last year, his first team opportunities were very, very limited, and up to the point of recording this season, Van de Beek hasn't made a single first team appearance. And if we do compare the attribute when he was at his best at Ajax to now, his attributes haven't changed at all. And with it looking like that Van de Beek will struggle to get into the Manchester United first team going into the rest of this year, I do think Sports Interactive will give Van de Beek a very small downgrade. Not much, but a very, very small downgrade. And with his current ability currently standing at 146, he has better current ability than the likes of Declan Rice and Castrovilli, and having the same current ability as Jorginho. The current ability that I do think Van de Beek will be looking at going into Football Manager 2023 is going to be 135. Going over to Football Manager, this is how Donny van de Beek would look if he got that 135 current ability, losing progression in most of his technicals and his physicals, but actually having an improvement on some of his mentals, the likes of anticipation, composure, and decision. But don't worry, Manchester United fans, it's not all doom and gloom, as I do expect Van de Beek to keep his 160 potential ability going into next year's game. With his obvious quality that he showcased over with Ajax and the odd glimpse here and there with Manchester United, I'd be very surprised if going into 2024 Van der Beek isn't at that 140, 150 and 160 current ability mark, as I do expect him to ultimately become a very important player for Manchester United. At the number 3 slot is going to be another Real Madrid man, someone who we have all more than likely managed at some point over the past few years, and he's still highly regarded, but he's fell from grace slightly over the past few years, and that man, ladies and gentlemen, is Isco. Now, Isco has been in and out of the first team over the past few years and constantly linked with different clubs. Once an important player, he was only able to rack up 25 appearances last year, contributing a very poor 2 assists and not scoring a single goal. And even some of their appearances were off the bench, only managing to muster up a measly 897 minutes on the pitch. And honestly, I'm surprised he hasn't been downgraded already. Still at a decent 152 current ability. He's on par with Phil Foden and Ruben Neves, players who have had much better seasons than Isco. He is pretty much the same this year as he was in Football Manager 2019, where he also played pretty poorly in that season. Now, if I was to be incredibly harsh, I'd probably stick Isco at the 135 mark, but I do think he is a little bit better than some of the players in that range. So we are going to go for the 140. And this is how 140 current ability would treat Isco. Physically, he's had an absolute stinker, losing progress in pretty much every attribute. Basically, don't expect him to run around and be that mobile midfielder. Technically, still very impressive, a very good playmaker. He's lost a bit of progress on his passing and technique, but still pretty good overall, keeping most of his mentals relatively the same. And once again, even with a pretty significant hit, he's definitely still one of the better playmakers you'll be able to purchase going into the new game if they do go with this current ability. Just don't expect him to run that much or be particularly quick. And 4th on the list is probably one of the biggest disappointments of recent years, NICOLAS PEPE. Now, there is no doubt PEPE has the quality to become a good player in the Premier League, but with his arrival to the Premier League happening during some really poor years for Arsenal, his performances for a £72 million man have not been good enough. And Sports Interactive seemed to agree last year, as he had a downgrade from FM20 to FM21, going from 151 current ability in FM20 to 144 in FM21, and this had the biggest impact on his mentals, where he lost progress on his decisions, determination and concentration, and a few from his technicals as well, such as finishing, first touch and passing. Now, I don't think NICOLAS PEPE is going to be the only player from Arsenal that's going to get a lower current ability going into FM22, but I do definitely think PEPE will be one of the most affected, and the current ability that I do think he's going to have is going to be 135. And that current ability would put him in the same range as Loftus-Cheek, Bernard, and someone that is going to get a massive boost going into the new game, Giovanni Reina. And now hopping over to Football Manager, this is how NICOLAS PEPE would look if he did have that 135 current ability going into the new game. And honestly, it's quite sad to see the deterioration of PEPE on FM when you consider how good he was when he was at Lille. Since FM19, if we were to compare his attributes from FM19, FM20 to FM21 and potentially FM22, it's really, really sad, as he's just constantly got worse on his attributes. It's gone down and down and down. And I don't necessarily think that's all of his fault. Don't get me wrong, his performances haven't been brilliant. But as I said before, I do think that Arsenal just not being a very good football team definitely hasn't helped NICOLAS PEPE. But regardless, he's still a decent player with that 135 current ability. Is he good enough to be getting in Arsenal's first team if he did have this current ability? probably, but the likes of Saka, Smith Rowe, Odegaard, it's going to be very, very difficult. If we look at his attributes physically, he's still pretty decent, very quick. He still has some good technicals as well. His dribbling's still fairly high. Flair and technique are impressive as well. Now, Pepe still has age on his side. He's only 26 years old, and around now, he's meant to be entering his prime. And if Arsenal have a good season this year with Pepe contributing, I'd just like to put in, if Arsenal have a good season, it's not looking good right now. It's currently the 1st September, and Arsenal are bottom of the Premier League, haven't scored a goal. So it's not looking good for Nicolas Pepe. I'm sure he'll be back up to that 140, 150 current ability mark. On to number 5, and the final name on this, well, not so luxurious list, is Willian. At Chelsea, Willian was an integral part to the team for 7 years, winning a few individual awards, winning a few trophies, and racking up 234 appearances for Chelsea. And on FM20, his attributes were pretty damn good. Well, what went wrong? He joined Arsenal, and joining them not at a particularly great time. Same as Nicolas Pepe. He hasn't been great, Willian, only scoring 1 goal in 25 appearances, and his current ability of 143 this year reflects them poor performances. A huge 12-point deduction on his 155 current ability on FM20. And I think it's probably only going to get worse for Willian. His recent free transfer to Corinthians and going on to the latter stages of his career. He's currently 32 years old. I expect going into FM22, we will see a sizable decrease in his current ability once again. And I expect this to be around the 130 mark. And this is what Willian would look like with that 130 current ability. And, well, let's be honest, he isn't brilliant. Only rated as a leading championship player. That is bad. Yes, that is. Sorry, Willian. Sorry. And probably the player on this list who has had the biggest downgrade in attributes, comparing him from his 143 to now, there's a pretty noticeable downfall on certain attributes such as his dribbling, his first touch, and a huge downgrade on his mentals, losing a few points of pretty much every single attribute. It's weird to think that only a few years ago, it feels like yesterday, let's be honest, that Willian was considered one of the best wingers when he was at Chelsea in the Premier League, and now he's leaving Arsenal on a free transfer to play out the rest of his career in Brazil with Corinthians. And this does conclude the top 5 players who I do think will get a pretty sizable downgrade going into the new Football Manager. If you did enjoy it, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to be alerted when any of these videos are released. And if you disagree or agree with any players on this list, make sure you put in the comment section below. Let me know, do you think I was too harsh, too kind to any of these players? And if you think there should be a player on this list, once again, make sure you put it in the comment section. But thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves. Have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.